So right now, that's the beauty, is that we basically call these industry standard tags, currently in use by some fire departments. So if all of a sudden you say, Cisco, I don't like your tags, so, okay, then you may want to use Seattle's tags, another fire department, Tacoma's tags. Tagging is a standard. It's not that the wording and everything on a tag has to be standard. The fact that you're putting up a tag, you guys already tag fire pumps. You guys tag systems with a card system, don't you? A yellow, red. So you can invent your own tagging system to start tagging fire escapes. And here's the beauty. In Seattle, they have to do what's called an administrative rule change to the fire code. In Boston, you have to do what's called an ordinance change in order if you want to get tags and things accepted. I was made aware in a class that I did probably a month ago that you don't have to do either administrative rule change or you don't have to do an ordinance change where you need the local selection to accept something like this. You can just do what's called a departmental procedure. And all it is, and I have one, I'm going to share it with you today. A departmental procedure is nothing but a document that's a general notice. It has the code on there, and I'll show you one today. I just built it this weekend because once I got the state inspector to tell me you really don't need to use ordinances and administrative rule change, which is an uphill climb. He goes, you should need to follow some industry standard guidelines. So if you generalize the statement in the departmental procedure, and that's what I did, I generalized what an inspection procedure is for you. I generalized what the repair procedure is for you, following the code. And I generalized what the painting procedure is going to be based on EPA guidelines. And it's basically a layman's view of what the code means down below. You're going to fully explain it afterwards anyway, because some people are going to read that and still don't know what you're talking about. But it's 3 steps in a fire escape. You need to inspect it, read the layman's terms. You're going to repair it, read the layman's terms, and it says pull a permit. And it says paint it. Read the terms, because now EPA is kind of involved. So you adopt this as a departmental procedure. You can use it as is, or you can say, you know what, we're going to make up our own. On our little letterhead, we just copy and pasted what he said there, put it on the letterhead, and you send it out. There's an acceptance. Okay, but some of these things are already in play in New York, New Jersey, Seattle, Texas. You know what I'm saying? Does it have to become a state law? No. It's an industry standard guidelines. Now, that's one of the reasons why we started the National Fire Escape Association. Because some of this stuff is just sitting out there and we need to house it in a museum somewhere. So that's why we launched the National Fire Escape Association. The membership is every firefighter, every building department, every housing inspector has free access and free admission as a member. But every vendor, such as fire escape guys, engineers, architects, painters, contractors, they pay to become a member so they can get this information. So every time you need a standard, we're starting to put it in there so that way the voting body will now have national standards. That come from the National Fire Escape Association. It's put up by a bunch of people, yes.
Is there a national standard on how often a code check should be performed on each and every fire escape?
Very good question. Here's the standard nationwide. The law started, and we'll use Boston as an example, the Uniform Building Code that said all fire escapes must be maintained at all times. So if there's no inspection date, guess what happens to that law? Gets abused, gets ignored, and then somebody dies. Something happened in Boston, so they basically took that code, which says all fire escapes must be maintained at all times, and said, no, we want it inspected every 5 years. So nationally, the average is you structurally inspect the fire escape every 5 years. In some areas, such as California, they want you to inspect the fire escape every year, but do a structural every 5, but inspect it every 1 year, ladders and moving components. Now, we recommend that on all buildings, and this is our recommendation only, in our classes that we teach just like this, we say that if a building goes through a fire escape refurbishment today and gets a sign-off of the confidence test in lieu of a load test, we recommend that if that building is 50 to 75 years old or 75 to 100 years old, that you order an immediate test on anything that's 75 to 100 years old, you order an immediate load test, and then a load test will not have to be done on that particular building for another 25 years. So it got fully refurbished, fully reconnected, and then you ordered a load test. Immediately or within the next 5-year cycle, you get that person to put their pennies aside, because it's going to cost them a few bucks, to load test, even though they're refurbished, the load test is not really for the refurbishment, the load test is for, the structure's 100 years old, we just don't want a wall collapse. Any building that's 50 to 75 years old, we recommend that the fire escape be load tested, but you give them a 5-year heads up, like, hey, we'll take this confidence test now, good job on refurbishing it, but be aware that the next time, between now and 5 years, we would like a load test, and then every 25 years on that building. So that's our recommendation, that a fire escape does go once in its lifetime minimally through a load test, and depending how old it is, you can initiate that. Because I wouldn't recommend the load test for a fire escape that's 25 years old, on a fresh building. But it's really up to you. There could have been earthquake, there could have been a truck hit, there could have been many reasons why you now, the whole wall test. Now, we've also said that in that 25-year period, this should not be considered a fire escape inspection. It should be a wall inspection that the fire escape is currently attached to. So in a 25-year cycle of inspection, it's a wall inspection for the whole entire wall of which the fire escape is currently a part of, that's all. You know what I'm saying? So it's sort of a wall inspection that picks up the fire escape. Does that make sense to you guys on the 25-year rule? Because the 5-year inspection rule keeps picking up the everything external to the wall. Okay? Any other questions on that? Yes?
Why isn't there an NFPA standard for this?
Very good. Quincy, Massachusetts, they're 15 minutes away from me. I've called them up and said, hey, they go, yeah, you gotta be part of a committee 3 to 5 years later, we're gonna be kicking it around. I get more results on a grassroots level like this. But yes, I'm working that angle, but one man, one flag.
But to be honest with you, you've written a standard for the company, you do your own work.
Yeah.
So that kind of,
Oh, I know.
you know what I mean?
That's why we started the National Fire Escape Association, so not only can I have my work, as a matter of fact, anybody that can be contributing to it. The fact is that nobody wants to write anything, so I can't punish myself for writing something that, I saw a need. But my problem is that a lot of times when I'm coming out saying, hi, I'm Fire Escape Services, here's a way to do it, they're like, oh, you're a profit guy, there's a hidden agenda there. So we said, okay, so let's have an association that basically everybody here is a voting member of, and you basically, the standards are out there, and there's 400 or 500 videos out there. There's also some fire departments and building departments are taking some of these and utilizing them immediately, putting them into play immediately because it's just common sense stuff. So, but yes, everything has to be scrubbed and cleansed so that it's generic and it goes. So
We don't let the sprinkler guys and fire alarm guys write their own code, so it's.
yeah, right. Well, no, they can help in writing the code. They can't write their own code. They help in write. So I went down and it's a committee that I have to create and join, and it's 3 to 5 years from now. Yes. So I couldn't wait 3 to 5 years, so I did this, and I get more results out of firefighters than I get out of building departments. Because I've never seen a dead building department guy on the ground after a fire, or before a fire. You understand? So I've had a lot more. So this is the other piece now. And I always say this, why not NFPA? Do you have an in of who I should be talking to? You say, hey, you need to talk to Gerald White.
Okay.
And that's the guy that's going to get you immediately starting a seminar. Yeah, help me. Sometimes I knock on the door and when they look out the people, I'm not high enough on their list of important people. This thing is killing occupants and firemen. I don't think I've anything higher, but I have a better meeting. If I change one guy here that goes out and I teach him about square head bolts and rivets, and he understands where rust comes from, and then he changes, the rest of his time at that city, I get more results out of this. So I am trying to do a national standard, and that's why we formed the National Fire Escape Association. It's just for that. So that as that starts going out there and being the presenter of these things, it's more readily accepted. And yes, we'll go for accreditation so we can give you this class, and then at the end I'll sign a bunch of cards and give you 2 credits apiece and blah, 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 whatever. So that's coming, but one thing at a time, and that's, I have to fish every day so I can feed my family, and then at the same time, this is a free class. And I do these free classes nationwide. Seattle, Chicago, they don't pay me to go out there. But I have inspections, so a lot of times, I'll teach a class in Houston because I happen to be inspecting something in Houston. So next week, I'm supposed to be up and you'll see, and if you go to our website, firescapeservices.com, on training, you'll see all the classes I've done. Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Chicago, Houston, Washington, D.C. And the funny thing, the story that I'm telling them is the same story I'm telling you, so I should just use one video and then send it out to everybody. So some people will watch videos, but some people need this live stuff here. I don't know if anybody wants to, I got another 15 minutes, if that's all right with you. Sure. If you guys want to take, a couple of minutes, grab your coffee, and I'll just keep, as you grab your coffee, I'll just keep going along with the sound files put together. And then we'll end this up on a quick slideshow of what the pieces are, but feel free to get up right now and grab yourself some coffee. All steel, through the veneer, into the masonry. This is how every fire escape in the United States is built. If it's a masonry building, it goes through the veneer into the masonry. The structural is here. Whenever you see a blowout, you see the blowout on the veneer only. Guess what they don't fix? Guess what every vendor doesn't know how to fix? I shouldn't say every, but most vendors will not fix what's internal. They always give it the makeup job right out here. Okay? And this is what it looks like. So when a vendor comes in here, you think he's going to remove a bunch of these bricks to get back to the meat of the situation? So he's going to give you a quick cement job right here, and it looks great. It looks tight because the veneer is tight. That's structural. If I put a hole here 5 inches away and I put an epoxy bolt, 3/4 epoxy bolt, 8 to 12 inches deep, and then I mechanically fasten it back whatever way I can back to the connection. Now can I seal this and then call the new connection my primary? Will that satisfy you from not writing a load test on my client? Perfect, let's keep on going. This has a brace right there, holding no staircases. This has no brace right here, holding 2 staircases, and falls apart. Okay? These things are out there. It's only buried into the wall how deep? 8 to 12 inches. Can this thing carry a load of occupants and firemen without collapsing the whole staircase of the platform? It'll just blow out that wall. So you either put a leg on it or you put another brace on it. This is what brackets look like. A lot of your original hardware, you'll see it right there and right there. A lot of the water driven into the building is on this little chute right there. That's what it looks like. Is this a structural problem or a veneer problem? It's a structural problem. The only thing you can see, though, is the veneer. So I can close this up. Can I put a piece of angle on the other side and reattach 5 to 8 inches with an epoxy bolt? Not epoxy. I don't have to use on the bottom an epoxy. I can use an expansion bolt. Can I do that? So do I want to open up this thing and take out all these bricks and see how deep it is and what the problem is inside? Or can I let sleeping dogs lie? Just make another connection to the left of it. And then in lieu of a load test, will you allow this certified repair? This is what connections look like on some mill buildings. You know, they have the through bolts. But this is what happens. There's so much pressure that they blow the bricks if the plate is not big enough. Okay? It'll start sucking through. It'll crush bricks. You get a lot of water on fire escapes, a lot. So if you want to grow moss and ivies and stuff, this is called rust jacking. Rust jacking is when rust gets between 2 pieces of anything, mainly 2 pieces of steel, and it just starts growing rust and it blows things apart. Just like ice jacking, this is called rust jacking. This is 1 inch of rust. 25 years gets you a quarter, 50 years gets you ½ inch. This is a library in Boston. To grow this 1 inch, how long? The lifetime of the building. Am I the only guy that can see this? This thing's probably been inspected before. Fire marshals and building inspectors have walked up this library a million times. I'm the only one that can see this? So you have to understand that we're going to teach you that you're not even supposed to be on this fire escape to see this. You know what I'm saying? Because look at the hardware. You're going to start looking at the hardware. That's all original bolts. In case you want to grow ferns, it's a great place for fire escapes to grow ferns. You get driven water, because a lot of these are, you know. And the last one is when you have basically what we call bridges. This lake to the ground usually sits on a sono. This building is a lake, and you have a bridge. Okay? And then the last one that we're going to be talking about, we have a structural problem or a veneer problem here? Structural. Can you see the structural? You can't see the structural. The veneer is blocking you. You can't see the structural. You don't know what's wrong with the structural. So the veneer is the only thing you can see. You know, if you investigate what's going on, somebody, you have to come in here and remove more bricks. Or can you basically put this thing back together and make a whole new connection to the side of it? Right? So you have a choice. Spend thousands of dollars blowing out all these bricks, then reattach it back into the building structurally, and then re-veneer it. Or can I just re-veneer it, put a new connection off to the side? Wood structures. All wood structures must have through bolts. Okay? No latch screws. All wood structures must have through bolts. And you'll see a piece of 3/4 rod or 5/8 rod sticking out, not 1/2 inch, not 1/4 inch. The minimum is 5/8, but the norm is 3/4 coming out. You see a big nut on it and it got hacked off. The excess got hacked off or was left on, and you see a big piece of rod sticking out, threaded rod. That means there's a plate inside, creating a sandwich. In order for that to come down, a piece of the wall must come down. No wood structure can have lag screws. They can have lag screws to hold it in position, but they all need a through bolt up at this position. Cantilevers. See what a release arm does? A release arm is made so that even stupid people run through them. And when stupid people run through them, what do? They activate something. They activate the cantilever system, which drops at 2 to 3 feet per second, hits the ground and stays down, because by the time they push this bar that is blocking you, they push it away or run through it, pick one, it activates and releases the cantilever. And when the cantilever starts dropping, that's a release arm right there, see? Is that also an anti-theft device? Right? Because if it's engaged, can I pull down the cantilever and break into the building? But now this thing is activated, is it doing anything? See the chain? That chain with that little wraparound up there is your first clue that the fire escape is out of balance. Fully painted, who cares? There's a chain on it, it's out of balance, and you look at the original hardware, these are hex heads or square heads.
Original, can't tell.
I know you can't tell, but does it look like it's new hardware? Does it look like there's any evidence of maintenance anywhere?
No.
So that's the other one. You walk by any building, you're looking for a change in bolts, and they're that distinctive from each other. Seeing none, who cares if it's painted? That's only half the code, right? They must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. What have they completed already? The paint side, great. What about the structural? So, brand new painted fire escapes, you're gonna basically violate. You're gonna be sending them a repair paint violation test. They're like, what's this repair paint violation? I just had the thing worked on last week. Yeah, good job painting. I will not need the paint side of it done. You're done. Now go get it inspected by a structural engineer, because you got nothing but original hardware, and I wanna know who the guy that sent me this certificate was, because I need to speak with him, because he's not gonna inspect this way ever in my city. I'm gonna let him continue to inspect if he follows the standard. Otherwise, this guy will never sign off another fire escape like this in my city again. And if he needs videos to go see, he can go to Fire Escape Academy and watch our video, because I'll send him our video class that says, I know what's going on here. There's nothing better when you have an engineer that you're dealing with. He says, well, what do you want? He says, well, I happen to have a link to my class that I just took, so you know what I'm looking for now. And it's only a 2-hour class, why don't you listen to it? Otherwise, I'll see you in a meeting, because I have a sprinkler meeting, I have a fire door meeting, I have a fire pump meeting, and now this afternoon between 3:30 and 5 o'clock, I can have a fire escape meeting regarding that building. And I want to see what plan you've come up with that I will accept, so that I don't order a load test. This is what cantilevers look like when people start adding weights and start configuring them and playing around with them and doing all kinds of crap. Trash trucks and things hit these things all the time. These things get repaired without engineer oversight. Just smash that big and you let an engineer. By the way, if a truck hit a cantilever, you know what we call it to the client? We call it a fire escape lottery ticket. You know why? Because I have to fix that fire escape and bring in the entire system back to operational condition. So if they got a 5-story and they only smashed the bottom 2 stories, guess what I have to fix? 5 stories. The entire fire escape, even if he hasn't been keeping it up. So I call it a fire escape project. This is your best, worst day, I tell the client. So we do an inspection, we satisfy you guys, make sure that we have a good plan, pull the permit, make sure that the vendors pull the permit, and staircases, they gotta be properly tied, so it's not like a thread you fall through, it's the entire staircases can let go. See all that rust in that stringer clip? Yes, Dave?
No, he's got a question.
Huh? Oh, question, yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, could the property owner go after the trucking company for hitting the?
They do, that's why it's called a fire escape lottery. So if you have the trash truck, now there's no deductible, it's 100% fixed, 5, 10, 25 grand. If it's a hit and run, they have insurance on the building. They pay their $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 deductible, and the rest of it gets fixed. So it's a fire escape lottery too. This is a 25-story hotel in Chicago. It's gonna get occupants or firemen or both?
Yeah.
1 inch of rust on a stringer. In the middle of the night, can you guys see these things? Sometimes in flight. Lottery tickets, they're out there. Railings and connections, tying backs, I mean, I'm just gonna now show you just how rust grows and grows and treads. We already talked about the treads. The spacers on a lot of the gratings, if those open, your foot gets stuck, guess where you're going? You can't fix these. Okay? So our job now is to basically show you that between original hardware and blatant, repairs, see the square head bolt there? See the square head bolt there? But this is what you need to see in order to say that it's bad? Or can you now look at a square head bolt, which is now how old? Does anybody use square bolts today? So anything that still has a square bolt in it is how old? 50 to 75. Anything that has a rivet in it, similar to a bridge, is how old? 75 plus. Now, if you're looking at anything that's an exterior structure, and it's got square head bolts, and it's got a rivet in it, there's only 2 things that you will allow to give you a guarantee, because you're looking for a guarantee in writing, correct? One is, the code says you can do is, load test. So the bolt can stay, give me a load test, and in 5 years, you want the same load test again?
Yep.
Right, so, or today, on this structure, can I keep my bolt and put a backup bolt next to it? Yeah. Do I need a load test? Do you get the same guarantee? Right? Because in case that fails, guess who we sue?
You.
No, the bolt company. There's a new bolt there. Guess what failed? Did I fail or did the bolt fail? The bolt failed. The original bolt, which is 50 to 75 years, can you sue anybody there? No. But there's a new bolt that was bought at Home Depot, and guess who's getting sued? Because I did everything possible, right? We changed the bolt or reinforced the existing connection with the bolt. Is that a correct statement? So guys, rust is sitting out. How long did this one take? It's a walking hand grenade waiting for guys like you to come up and down. And ladders. We got ladders to the roof. We got all kinds of ladders out there, guys. These are ladders. Anybody ever seen one of these? An accordion ladder. West Coast. They open up just like an accordion. Very stiff, very solid. They can do it out there because there's no snow and ice. They were doing it here, guess what happens? That's why we don't have some great technology. You guys have a lot of these?
Yeah.
A lot of these? That's a weighted ladder system. When it goes down, guess what goes up? These things must be controlled so that they don't, the cable pops, guess what doesn't happen? Ladder systems have to have a release arm or a chain on because guess what happens if the cables let go? What happens to that ladder? Guillotines down to the ground. So everything must be under control. Roof ladders must be properly attached. Because who uses this? Occupants or firefighters? Some people have modified their ladders to basically create what's called a floor mount. Now this thing arcs out. And when you push this thing out, and it arcs out, and there's a dog, a child, or a fireman down below, what happens to their skull?
Little bump.
Is this legal? To modify a ladder to do this? No. So if you see any modifications, flop outs, illegal. If it can hurt or kill somebody, in its use, it's illegal. So let's talk about the plan. Okay? The plan is very simple. Checklist, right? So anybody want to rattle off one place that you're going to put this thing on a checklist? Want to do with a smoke detector? You're going to add it to the bottom of your smoke detector checklist? Right? Is that a good place to start? Your building department, you're going to speak with them, right? And by the way, I got videos for your building department. So this very same video, I got a building department class that you can send to your building department. I got housing inspector classes that you can send to your housing inspector so that everybody can get on board. How can your building department help you starting today? Tying it back to permits. What can they do? What can they make as a checklist on theirs? Regarding permits and the sign off. I said earlier that to close it out, they just need a checklist that says, as part of the closing of any permit on any building, I need a copy of the current certification. That helps you guys, because if they say I don't have one, who writes the violation? They do or you do? If the client doesn't have a certification, who writes the violation? Fire department or building department? No, it's just a violation. They don't have a current, the fire escape is currently not certified.
Unless
So-
there's some specific in your local ordinances that you're not aware of. You guys, as far as by the ability to
Okay, so you're gonna have to work with your fire department and your housing, your building department or your housing to see what code they have so that they can write a violation or give you a referral, right? They have the ability to give you a referral, right? That says this fire escape doesn't have a current certification. Fire escapes must be maintained at all times, correct? Isn't that?
I think that's probably where the initial building code, from a fire code side, our fire code, we would support, we enforce the NFPA standards. I think-
And there is none there, so.
Right, so then you go to the building code side, I would assume that you're referring to a clause in the uniform building code that would require.
What's your maintenance code? So forget the NFPA, because you're probably looking for what is the standard for repair and inspection. That's coming. We get that.
You can't do that.
No, I don't mean this. I'm asking you now, in your own codes, what code, what fire code or building code do you have?
We don't have a state code.
No, by NFPA stuff.
So what is the maintenance code on the NFPA? What part of maintenance of an egress system do they have that says if the means of egress is in a state of deterioration, it needs to be maintained? And if there's anything that's a life safety issue, you can shut that fire escape down. So in the NFPA, where's the code that talks about if anybody has,
Chapter 7.
okay, so if you can, I do this in 50 states, I don't know all the codes, guys, this is where you guys come in. If somebody's holding some knowledge, this is where you drop it back in now to say, okay, so if I want to write a violation, NFPA,
Yeah,
on
but
fire.
first of all, before you can write that up, it's gonna be as a legitimate fire escape that's gonna be used as a means of egress. Because if it's not a legitimate means of egress, you can't write them up for the code, because it's not gonna apply.
Yeah, we're gonna assume that it's a legit second means of egress,
So
so.
you'd be able to find it in 7 as far as, an egress areas should be kept clear and
Yeah,
maintained.
that's the
as
obstruction
usual.
rule,
Right.
must be obstructed, yes.
It might be in NFPA 1, whether that section about general maintenance has to be maintained. That's what-
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in,
Anybody? Now this is where you guys just chime in, what is it, where?
NFPA 1 says any required system needs to be maintained
Okay,
or removed. And if this is already there as a required second means of egress, then it would have to be maintained.
Right.
But then we kind of get into that, okay, it needs to be maintained, and that's kind of how, you and I ended up kind of hooking up, was that the Cliffside in Newport had a fire escape that was part of a historic building's second means of egress and had been allowed to have one central staircase. And I was all for, allowing the second means of egress to be the fire escape, which was existing, but it was in pretty poor repair. So I was, well, how do I know whether or not it should be good or not? And that's sort of how this came about, was, I wanted somebody to be able to say, without all the disclaimers, that I'm comfortable with them saying that this is okay for me to say, without all that knowledge, that, yep, I'm comfortable accepting this, and that's how
So we'll talk about the cliffside. Let me read you the ones in the back is from New Jersey, right? This is the International Fire Code of New Jersey, 1028.6. Do you guys use any of the fire code, International Fire Code, in any way?
No.
Okay. So, but let me tell you what the most of the codes always tend to lean back to it. All exit discharges, exterior stairways, and fire escapes shall be kept free of snow and ice, which is the obstruction law. Any fire escape or exterior stairway found to be in a state of deterioration, which is the deterioration law in the NFPA, or determined to be unsafe, which is what, in what part of the NFPA? Unsafe, when something is determined to be unsafe. So the deterioration, which is a paint job, and unsafe is what part of the NFPA? An unsafe structure, right?
You'd probably find it in NFPA 1.
Okay, so an unsafe structure to you is gonna have to become, from you, what will you determine to be an unsafe structure? So a red fire escape is dangling treads. Is that an unsafe structure to you?
Of course.
Okay, so that's a life safety issue. As soon as you get there, there is no dangling treads, but you look up and you can see original hardware and blown out gussets, Is that an unsafe structure in your mind? And it's not painted.
Sure.
Okay, and all these we'll find in NFPA, and I'll work with him, because as soon as he gives me where it is in the NFPA, I'll make up a general little sheet that says, here's the codes that you guys are kind of going, I'll give it to him, he'll pass it back to you guys. So now, he's deemed it either, the easiest one is a deterioration, which is what? A paint job. Can you use just paint jobs to initiate violations? No. It's a deterioration. It's not being kept painted. No?
We have no standard that says, we have a standard that says your sprinkler system needs to be maintained, tested, all this other stuff, fire alarm systems, kitchen suppression. There's no standard as to, because we might have 30 guys look at that paint job and 2 would say, it's a Newport, it's always gonna have a little bit of rust on it, and move on. There's no standard for us to.
I know, that's what we're trying to do, but our rule of thumb is not so that you're not constantly just bagging everybody on a little bit of rust. Does it got more paint than rust or more rust than paint? Right? So that is something that with each individual, I'm just trying to determine where you can write your violation. And you said that there's a deterioration, which means let's just go with.
If a fire escape or ladder system is used as a second means of egress or escape, then under 101 and 1 and every other code that we have says it has to be maintained.
Which means a paint job.
Maintained in
Well, what's it mean?
in immediate use condition.
What's the word maintain to? It needs a paint job?
Of course.
Okay, so now it needs a paint job, minimally, and from this class, you know that rust came from where? From the inside or the outside of that fire escape?
Inside.
And do is the connection suspect? Is it to the point of unsafe where it's just blatantly unsafe, or you're gonna order a repair paint test on that? This is where you guys help me, saying how you want this thing to be written, because I don't write code. I just help you interpret code so that you understand where you can write your violation. And maybe sometimes you have it better written in the building code. And they can help you write it out better. So here you are trying to find a way to lock these guys in with just a simple referral to the building department, say, hey, Jack, can you write a violation on this guy under your code? Yes.
Code, property maintenance.
Property maintenance code. So I'm just telling you where you have to go to basically, because sometimes, in some states, they can't touch 1 to 3 stories. The fire department can't go anywhere near a 1 to 3 family. They can have a fire escape dangling off the backside of it, and they can't touch it in some
That's
states.
Rhode Island.
That's Rhode Island.
So,
Other than smoking
okay,
common.
so now we have a riddle, right? Now, is that riddle answered by you because you're going to close up that loophole, or is that riddle answered by you working in conjunction with, under a fire escape awareness program, with a building department or a property management code that can write that violation, which then sucks you into the play? Which one? I don't know. I'm just here to basically raise the awareness to say some standards are starting. Can we answer it all today? No. But can I make you can I get each one of you guys never to step on these 75-year-old fire escapes? 25 years ago, I wouldn't say that to you guys. I wouldn't say, hey, don't get on fire escapes. But today I'm telling you, because they're how old now? And the shaft is how far away from that last clip now, right? But can we answer some of this? Yes. And when I said to you, I said, I'll send you some video of training of building inspectors and training of housing inspectors. Why? Because this has to be a joint effort. Because you know who ignored these fire escapes? All three of you. You know who's not going to fix it all by themselves? You. So you have to bring these other guys in and say, our law is laxing what we need in order to write this violation. It's a referral call. You call Jack and say, Jack, please write a violation on this guy for me so I can have this thing. Because I'm trying to get him under deterioration, or I'm trying to get him under an unsafe structure, and I just can't. So can you please write a violation from property maintenance or from whoever? And that's how you're gonna get it. And you give me any of this information, I'll put it into a document. That becomes a departmental procedure with the code sitting down there for interpretation. Because I'm not gonna write code or interpret code, I'm just gonna say, here's the general information that's out there. You guys interpret that after you write your violation, or somebody else does, what you're trying to get. And you're trying to get a safe structure for occupants and firemen. Who's gonna fight that? The mayor? Because it's gonna come. As you start touching these things that nobody touched for 75 years, you know what you're gonna get?
Pissed off people.
You're gonna get pissed off people. And let's sort of end it there. With that, and I'll sort of end the class there. Pissed off people. Ready? You've got a $5,000 to $25,000 problem every time you touch a 5-story fire escape. Minimum when you start touching, right? Let me tell you the immediate answers. I've got a situation on a fire escape with occupants inside, babies, children, handicapped people, you name it, they're all in there, and you can't close down that building. So, you guys have scaffolding companies down here? If I've got a fire escape on the side of a building and it's horrendous, ready in a state of collapse, can I order some scaffolding on a typical 5-story building and pay anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000? Not you, the owner. Pay $1,000 to $2,000 and have a scaffolding put right next to the fire escape with full sets of stairs inside, tying back into the building. Will that satisfy the egress for a temporary period of time? Just a scaffold, fully qualified scaffolding that basically gets people out of the building. This is so you don't shut it down, because you are going to order, you have your right to order what? You have the right to vacate the building, you have the right to put in a fire watch, and every now and then, you're going to need something, because let's say they can't fix this fire escape, they're in foreclosure, the bank owns it, there's money, I mean, you name all the excuses, but you still have you don't have a second means of egress. Scaffolding is one of them. A lot of times, ironwork companies can do an emergency Band-Aid on a fire escape and make it functional. You know what I'm saying? So just so you know the options that are out there, you don't have to fully fix a fire escape. You're not going to remove the violations with any of these Band-Aids. This is just to tell you that at every situation, step number one, besides fire watches and vacating the building, there's satisfactory scaffolding out there that has the right rise and run on the stairs and everything that will act as a temporary second means of egress. They do this on buildings all the time when they need to reconstruct the second means of egress inside. They put it outside. They do it all the time. It's just I'm just giving you as a suggestion. I'm not telling you this is right. I'm just saying one of the suggestions when somebody's crying, I have no money, $1,000 a month will buy you 30 days. That's all it is. The temporary repair of the fire escape will buy you 30 days, 60 days, 90 days from an iron worker who's done some temporary shoring up the fire escape while you work with the owner. Otherwise, the only way that's going to remove that fire escape is certified repair and or a load test, which could be 6 months or a year away because the guy has no money. The bank owns it or some other crazy thing that's going on in this economic time. So just keep that in mind that as people tell you these things, there are temporary answers, and scaffolding is one of them, and a temporary repair. So now let me just show you one last piece here, and you guys, and that's the end of the class. Now these fire escapes. A lot of parking garages have egress systems. These are all traditional fire escapes, right? If you look at your code, you're going to find that all exit discharges, steel or wooden stairways need to be maintained, not just fire escapes. So, are these all exit discharges? Balconies are gonna be coming up on your radar pretty soon in the future, because are they external? Are these waiting balconies, areas of refuge need to be inspected? Hotels have these walkways, back porches, these are fire escapes, and/or back porches. But if it's a second means of egress, wood or steel must be inspected. Inspected. If it's exposed, it needs to be maintained. Decks. We're just touching fire escapes today. But all exterior steel or wooden stairs and exit discharges must be inspected. Catwalks, handicap ramps. If they're exposed to the weather, they need to be maintained and inspected. How about these walkways, these bridges from restaurants, hospitals, schools? Okay? So all these things, I mean, today we're focusing on fire escapes, but in your future, you're gonna start looking at everything external on the building, and if it's gonna hold a fireman or hold a tenant, you're gonna want that taken care of. So we're gonna start out slow, we're gonna be focusing on fire escapes, wood or steel. Okay? I'd love to end on this one. Anybody ever hear of a spiral staircase? I mean, a slidescape. Elizabeth, New Jersey, 12 stories. This is us on the roof. You go through these two little doors, and every floor down below has these two little doors. And this is the whole piece right there. And then at the very bottom, it takes a right-hand turn. You go down this slide, and your feet hit this iron door with a paddle that your feet smack into. It opens up, and you go away.
You hope it does.
And that's what it looks like when you're ready to jump in head first or tail first. And no potato sack included. They actually sent, they brought one of their guys, one of the rookies, and they threw one of the rookies down there from the 4th floor, because the door down below wouldn't open. So they sent him down there, and they have to, and this is a turn-of-the-century building, built in the 1900s, and this is an acceptable means of egress on this building. Elizabeth, New Jersey. So with that, I'll conclude the information that we have done for today. If anybody has any questions on I'll be around for a little bit. If anybody has any questions now, we've got some of your cards. We're going to be passing information back to you, and you get off to them. And again, a lot of this will be in draft form. Whether or not you want to accept it is up to you individually, but these are just some industry standard forms and guidelines that we use to modify whatever way you feel. I work with you, and if you agree with everything, then they'll send it off to you. And the class was recorded, so you'll be able to see this class usually within a week to 10 days. You'll see it online, and I'll send you the link to the very class. Okay, so from your department, you can make them watch the class. Okay? And I'll be hanging around. If anybody else have any questions, because I don't want to then shoo you out of here, but still some coffee left, and I don't know if you need to speak at the end of this.
Yeah, just briefly, we've got everybo's got a show of hands for the Christmas party in December. That's the plan right now, is that we're gonna do it here for the December meeting. If there's any objections to that, let me know what they are. Otherwise, I'll get with Sue and Oscar, and we'll get that organized. And then I would make a motion that we suspend all the other parts of our normal meeting. And if anybody's got anything, we're good. If anybody's got anything that we need to talk about before we go, just in the addition of time, let us know what it is, and other than that, we'll adjourn.
Thanks for your time, appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. You got my card, if you guys want to call. Ready, Thank you. Thank you for your input also. Oh, yeah, let me show you the letter that I can make. Give you that information. I'll give you a letter and you can fresh off the presses.
Well, no, you can't do stuff short.
Somebody called me up the other day, they want to take over the old Garrity,
How you doing, my friend?
Countdown, huh?
Huh?
Countdown?
So, what I did here is, National Fire Safety Association, Departmental Procedure and Guidelines, for inspection, repair, shaping of fire escape. And I'll send you this one, and you just read it, and it says here, in layman's terms, the inspector is looking for a qualified individual for the inspection. Very generalized, we're talking about this code now. The repairs, it says, in layman's terms, the inspector is looking for you to pull a permit, and that the repairs you're doing are based on a report from this guy overseeing you and his repairs that he submitted to you, repair guidelines and stuff like that, and blah, 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 and all the way down. Generic, like what is the standard? That's all this is a departmental procedure and guidelines. It's not what the law says to do. Departmental procedure and guidelines. And then in painting, it says, what this guy is looking for you to do is, to be, first of all, because we deal with lead laws now, you have to be a licensed renovator. And follow some basics of, notifying people inside the building, plastics on the bottom, if you're gonna sandblast it, I need full encapsulation, that's a whole new permit process there, blah, blah, blah. These three steps, this is how you fix a fire escape. And it's all referenced to this, so as you give me stuff from the NFPA, it says, Cisco, put down here this and this and this. Put it all down here, and then you say, Cisco, this is fine. This is general enough that I'm gonna speak with them anyway after this. No, this is fresh. I'll send him a copy of this, but if he gives me the information to go, I'll just put it down here and then I send it this. So this is becoming a generic. This is the first time that the NFPA has been the main driver. I've been all over the country, dude, and I'm getting fire code, I'm getting building code, housing code, and nobody said, no, we only use NFPA on my food. Yeah. So you caught me now, like, okay, I have been studying NFPA because NFPA is a guideline that, because nationwide, they always say, listen, we get a building code or fire code, and then we reference the NFPA, which one is better. So that kind of thing was happening, like, our code or their code, whichever one is better. And now you guys say, no codes. These guys, NFPA, I'm like, wait a second.
What are you gonna do now, sir?
And also the property management code, which is the housing side of it. You just find what the code is, we stick it in here, and we can have three. One is for you, one is for the building department, and one is for the housing department. You just give me their code, I stick it in here. Then we send it, and then you just appropriately, like, oh, this guy, playing, can't catch this guy. Okay, well, let's catch him on the building side. Instead of this information guideline, I'm gonna call Chad. Chad's already got a rubber stamp here.
Okay, bro, you gotta get hold
This
of
guy's
it.
elusive, he's one of those smart guys that threw a lawyer at me, and he got me. He's not gonna get the building guy. Jack, write me a violation, and you hand the guy the building one. Yeah, you're in violation of this. Well, you're not the building department, I know. Well, Jack is, and you'll be getting that in the mail by Monday. So, where you're lying, that's pissing me off. And by the way, my code says, load test will be issued. Guess what you're gonna do after all this shit you're gonna do? Guess what I still want? So you just pissed me off. So you're right, I didn't get you.
He does something.
That road,
Well, now you know why, on your end, as we start teaching this, I think everybody came out of here with a little bit more power in their pocket, saying, I can say all these things and do all these things, and the load test is my trump. So I've just made it to say, I'm putting fire escapes up there in par with everything else I need your respect. So sprinkler guys just don't go in and throw sprinklers in there without having a sit down with you. Well, I want to sit down with you with a fire.
I know what they're running, what class, 12 or class.
So I'm trying to do now. So I got one flag. I need more people to hold my flag. But every now and then I get hit with a flag in the head because sometimes it's a nice rule, but every now and then I got some exciting code and beating me to death with my own stick. I'm like, dude, I'm not here to interpret code, I'm just trying to tell you that there's ways to basically unify with your other three, because this is, I call it the perfect storm.
See you next month.
Fire department was stupid, building department was stupid, and housing department was stupid. And somebody got done, and somebody dies. Now everybody starts pointing fingers and saying, well, you know, you say, no, 75 years, that three guys been looking at it, they're looking at that, so that's okay. But now I'm talking to fire guys, which are the ones that always get killed or hurt, and I say, guys, today it's just you guys. But we're about to rope these guys back in and say, we're gonna watch this because it kind of falls in our code, but you're gonna help me find these things, watch these things, and whenever I don't have a code in my side to nail this guy, I got two other codes that I will use, because I'll know it, because it's only this code that I'm gonna be using to basically write a violation. And so I need a rubber stamp violation that when give me a violation on this address. Out right away. And now then we're dealing with this, and then now you can understand how a simple form, I just changed the code out here, and this is the Rhode Island Building Code. And then it'll be the Rhode Island Property Management Code, and the Rhode Island NFPA Code. Now you're like, okay, so what did you write a violation on? We have to get this guy in the building, all right, so email him the building one. This doesn't change, this doesn't change, this doesn't change. And now you're sort of slowly, because this is gonna take 5 years for you guys to get this back under control.
The same 5 years on the fire escapes that we put on in the first place, so we have that one worse.
Right, but at the same time, the main thing that we will really work with you is identifying these fire escapes. Just getting, accepting the tag, because the one thing I haven't done here is start bringing in the tag, because we start running out of room. But I want to start bringing in the fire escape at the end of this, a tag shall be affixed. With that, which is the last piece of the puzzle that I need, and it's just a simple line, I just got to shrink the font a little bit more and stuff. But as soon as I say, a tag shall be affixed, identifying its condition. Well, what's that mean? Okay, I need a tag that identifies its condition. Well, what's the standard? Well, in Seattle, they have this white, red, and yellow tag system. So we want to sort of, instead of reinventing the wheel, let's just copy them. What's somebody going to say? No, that's not. That's illegal. Seattle does it. I mean, and they're a fire department. Oh, and their confidence. Dude, Seattle does this. This is that thing I showed. That's a Seattle tag. I mean, that's a Seattle confidence test, which you can download. So, is there an industry standard? Yes. It's already out there because they.
Perfect time, because we're actually rewriting